Hi, everybody. This is Bela from the Writer's Territory, and I welcome you to the free Scrivener webinar. I'm happy you are joining me, and I'm happy you want to learn something about Scrivener. I think Scrivener is a great program for writers. I use it a lot, but it does have a little bit of a learning curve, and I'm happy that you jumped on board to know more about it. And so you can write your stories with Scrivener. Let me just go through you real quick what you can expect in this webinar. First of all, in just a couple of minutes, I will give you a quick introduction so you have, so you know a little bit about me, who I am. And then we will go through the necessary steps that you need in Scrivener to set up and to finish your writing project. So this webinar is going to be about 1 hour, maybe a little bit less. We'll see how it is going depending on questions and how much time we need, we will see. But what I want to do is I want to show you the basic steps that you need to set up your project and work with your project and create a compile and output with Scrivener so that you know how all the different functions of Scrivener hang together, and so that you really understand how Scrivener works, how its basic principle works, and in which way it is different from other writing applications, like, for example, Microsoft Word. Okay? So then after the webinar, you can use what you learned and apply that to your writing. So I want to give you the base, okay? I wanted to give you the base, how Scrivener works, and then after the webinar, you can use that and build on that and adapt that for your own projects. So I'm assuming you have used writing software before, maybe not necessarily Scrivener. This is a complete beginners webinar. Okay, so what I will do is I will show you the complete basics. I will go through the steps very slowly, also because maybe some of you haven't used Scrivener before, so everything will be completely new to you. But also, depending on your screen setup, you might have to go back and forth between my screen where I show you the steps and your screen where you do the steps. So I'll try to go very slowly and to explain everything very clearly. But if anything happens, if you have a problem, every now and then I will interrupt. I will ask you if there are questions. So if there is something you don't understand or that you didn't quite get, you can ask me. Otherwise, if you're stuck, just put something in the chat, and I will try to have an eye on the chat and see if something is not working. But I think we're gonna be very fine. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about myself. So I'm an option screenwriter, so I have that creative side, definitely, but I also have a high interest in technology. When I was a teenager, I used to fiddle around a lot with my computer, take it apart and rebuild it and try to install everything and make everything work. So I've always had that interest. And when I began writing, I was always very interested in how these writing programs work, what they can do for me, and how they can help me be more creative. Because what I found out is that while you are struggling with your software, you cannot be creative, right? So if you want to do something in your writing software and it doesn't work, or you don't know how to do it, during that time, you can't create, okay? So the writing software is just a tool that should help you be creative, and you shouldn't have to think about how to use that tool. Or to put it another way, the less you have to think about how to use your tool, the more you can spend your energy being creative and creating your writing projects. So I was always very interested in how these programs work, what they can do, what functions do they have. And over time, I found out that this is not the same for everybody, for every writer. And understandably so, because some things can be, let's say, a little bit complicated. I mean, you can learn everything that you want to learn, but some things maybe are not so straightforward. And I had a huge technical interest anyway, so I found out that because of my interest, I knew a little bit more than other writers maybe who are not so interested in the technical side also. So I started making YouTube videos. I started my YouTube channel, Writer's Territory, and where I still make, to this day, tutorial videos about different writing applications to help other writers. So, and then over time, writers kept asking me questions about that and telling me about their problems. And then a while ago, some writers came to me and asked me if I would do live coaching also, because they didn't like learning with videos so much, which of course is different for everybody and which is fine. So then I thought, yeah, why not? I can do webinars, live webinars also. So that's why we're here. And Scrivener is a program that I use extensively and that I think can help your writing a lot. So I want to show you around a little bit how that works. And a little bit later, we will also talk about another upcoming Scrivener webinar that I will do next week. But first, let's jump in and see how the basics of Scrivener work. I will share my screen so you can follow along with me. And also, if you downloaded the package, there was a link in the email that I sent you. There was a package to download where you have a sample project that we will use a little bit later. And you also have a handout, a PDF handout. So you can also follow with the handout if you want, or if you want to go through the steps later, you can do that with the handout as well. They might not all be in the exact same order that we're doing it now, but more or less, so you will be okay. All right, so then let me just share my Scrivener screen. Just 1 second. All right, so you should now see my Scrivener screen, and what you see here, you can fire up Scrivener now, and I have it already open. So what I did, I went to File, New Project, and there you see the template selection. When you open up the program, that is what you should see immediately. Just hold on a second, I will change the screen. All right, so I will use, if you see this template chooser, I will use the novel template in the fiction section, okay? But you can use another template also. We will just go through the basic steps, but if you follow along with me, go to the fiction section and then select the novel template. And then at the bottom right, just click Create. And then Scrivener asks you for a name. Let's just call this novel. And now Scrivener will create a new project from the novel template. And what usually happens when you create a Scrivener project from a template, hold on a second, I gotta change the screen. When you should now see the novel template, and what usually happens if you open up a new template is that first you are presented with a description of how to use this template. Okay, I will not go into too much detail about this now, because basically you read through that and it tells you how you can use a template. And after having gone through this webinar, all this will make a lot more sense to you. Okay, so for now, I will just put it aside. And first, let's go through. So for now, don't worry about what I'm clicking. Let's first just go through the main parts of the interface. Okay. So at the left side, you see this part. This is called the binder. So usually when you create a project from a template, there are sample files in the binder. And you see that the binder has a lot of different files. And that's because basically Scrivener can hold a lot of different files in one project. And that is the main difference between Scrivener and other writing applications. If we take, for example, Microsoft Word, in Microsoft Word, you have one file, and in that file, that is basically one document. And with Scrivener, that's not the case, because you have one project file, and in that project file, you can have a lot of different documents. And the main documents that you will use in the project that you are writing, they will always be, or rather you should put them in this main folder, which is here called Manuscript. You can give it a different name. You just double click it and you could give it a different name. For example, if you're not writing a novel, but a screenplay, you can call it script. And I think that's what it's called, script or screenplay, if you use the screenplay template, for example. But here it's called Manuscript. So all the documents that should be inside your, all the documents that should appear in your final output, and that's not just one document. Your final output can be a combination of several documents, as we will see later. But everything that you want to have in your final output, be it your book, your screenplay, your thesis, whatever, goes into this main folder here, okay? And all the rest of it is just optional, so to speak. If I were to create a blank Scrivener project, I would only have the main folder, which is the manuscript folder here, and the research folder. There's always one extra folder where you can put research files or whatever you want, basically, and the trash. So in every project, you have those three, and the rest is here because the people from Literature and Latte who produce Scrivener thought this might be useful for you if you want to write a novel. Okay, so for now, let's keep it at that. Here at the left side, you have the binder, and you can hide it or display it if you click here on this menu and click Hide Binder. Then it's gone and you have more space on your screen. Okay, all right. So then the next big area that we have here, this is the editor. And the editor is where essentially the writing happens. Okay, that's where you will write most of the time. That's your document. And in this case, the document is your scene document. So you see that when I click, whatever I click on in the binder will be shown in the editor window. If I click on the manuscript, you see that there is a line because we have two documents. We have, or rather, one folder and one document. We have the chapter folder, that's this line, and then we have a separation, and below that we have the scene. Okay, so you see that in the editor, you can display several documents, or rather several children documents of the parent document, so to speak, that you click on. If I click on the chapter, I see the chapter itself, because the folder can also hold text if you want, and the scene. The manuscript folder, the main folder itself, is the only one that cannot hold any text. It's just there to organize what will end up in your document. So this is the editor, and as you could see, we can display several documents here. So let me just click on scene, and then I'm on a Mac. I'm gonna press Command D to duplicate the scene. Now I have two, but you could also go to project, new text, to create a new document. Let's call that scene 2. So now in my chapter folder, I have 3 documents, and they're all empty now. But when I put text in there, so let's just put some sample text like scene 1 in the first one. Then I click on the second one, which is called scene 1 automatically, but let's say here this is the second scene, and this is the third scene. So if I now click on the parent folder, on the chapter folder, I can view the content of all the documents underneath in the editor. And if you see it like that or not is dependent on the view mode that you choose. You have view modes, these 3 view modes in the toolbar, and you see that right now, if you take a look at the most left one, this is activated. And you now see 2 pages there, and that means that you see all the documents in a row. If I click that, now all the documents are gone, because now we only see the content of the document that we have activated in the binder, which is the chapter folder. Okay, so if we want to see the documents underneath, we just click on this icon again, and then we see them. And the other 2 view modes are also very useful. The second one is the corkboard. If we click on the corkboard, we see the 3 scenes as index cards. So what we see is always the children documents of the document that we have active in the binder. You see that in the binder, we have the chapter folder active, and these 3 scene documents are children. So if I click, for example, on the manuscript folder, I see the children of the manuscript folder, which is the chapter folder. Okay, and if I click on one of the scene documents and go to the corkboard again, I see nothing, because this scene document doesn't have any children. It could have, because you can build very complex hierarchies if you want. This scene document can have subdocuments, but at the moment it doesn't. So that's why there is nothing shown on the corkboard. And what the corkboard shows you is the synopsis. So, and how that works with the synopsis, we'll take a look at that in a couple of minutes. First, let me show you the third view mode. If you click on the right button, this is the outliner window. And so there's a lot of information that we don't necessarily need right now. But what you do see is that you have an extra window where you can see the order of the documents as it is in the binder, but with additional information. okay? And also, if I click, for example, on the manuscript, you see that we now see the chapter folder. So we also see the children of what is selected in the binder. But contrary to the corkboard, we have this arrow. We can swivel the chapter folder open, and then we see these children also. So we can display the whole hierarchy. And in the outline editor, we can also, if we want, we can also display the synopsis. If we click, there is no synopsis in there right now. That's why it doesn't show. The button at the lower right corner, this is show or hide synopsis. You see in the header, here it says title. Now, if I click the button, it says title and synopsis, but we haven't filled in synopsis yet. We will see that when we work with the sample document. All right, so those are the binder on the left. Then we looked at different view modes. And now let's look at one more thing, and that is the inspector. I have now one document selected in the binder. It doesn't matter which one. And the inspector is the part on the right side. And you can show it or hide it by clicking the I button at the top right in the toolbar. If I click it, it is gone. If I click it again, it shows up again. And there are different tabs in this inspector, and we are not going to go through all of them. You see that you can do a lot of nice stuff there. But let me just show you real quick these two, the synopsis and notes, okay? Because what Scrivener does is you have this, let's work with the scene document now, because this is the one that is active in the binder, and this is the one that we see in the editor also. And because this is now selected, whatever we put in here in the inspector as synopsis and notes will be linked to this one document that we have active right now. So let's try that. Let's put in here in the inspector, in the synopsis window, let's put in, this is the synopsis of scene 1. Okay, just so that we recognize that later. And the same for notes. This is a note for scene 1. Okay, so far so good. Now, if we go back to the binder and select another document, for example, the second scene document, which is called scene-1 here, you see that this is empty. And that's because what I said earlier, that the synopsis and notes are linked to the document that is active right now, that is selected in the binder right now. So that means you can, to every one of the documents, you can link or save, if you will, its own synopsis and its own notes. And there is also more information that you can save together with each one of the documents, but for now, let's just keep it at that. And this is very helpful, for example, if you begin to structure your novel or whatever project it is that you are writing on, because then for every one of these documents, you have one synopsis and you can put the notes there, and they will always be linked to that document. And when you select the corresponding document in the binder, you will see what you put there. And also, because I showed you the corkboard earlier, if I now choose the chapter folder again in the binder, now by default it jumped to the view that we used last, to the outline view. And now you see that it put the synopsis here because we have it active. This is the synopsis of scene 1. If I deactivate it with the button in the lower right, it's not shown, it's hidden. Okay, but let's go back to the corkboard and see what it looks there. Click in the middle button of the view modes, the 3 view modes at the top. And now you see that the first scene where we put the synopsis in the inspector, it shows us this on the corkboard. This is the synopsis of scene 1. The other 2 don't have a synopsis. That's why Scrivener shows us a preview of the text that we put in the editor. This scene 2, you see it's a little grayed out. This is just a preview of the text because we didn't put the synopsis there. But we can also put in the synopsis directly on the corkboard. If I select this scene-1 document, you see that at the right in the inspector, in the synopsis area, you see there is no synopsis there yet. So we could put it there like we did before, but just to show you how it works, I'm gonna put it directly on the corkboard this time. And this is the synopsis for scene 2. Okay. All right. So far so good. Yes, let me show you one more thing and then I'm gonna open it up for questions if there are any. Okay. One more thing. You see, because this is quite useful and also important to know. If you take a look at the binder again, you see that chapter is a folder and the scenes are documents, but it doesn't have to be that way. Folders and documents, they're called files and folders in Scrivener, are practically the same, so to speak. You can switch back and forth without losing any information. A folder can also hold text like any document can, and a document can also hold subdocuments. Okay, so if you right-click on a file or a folder, doesn't matter. Just right-click in the binder, and then this menu opens up, and there you see convert to file. Because this is a folder, we can convert this to a file. If I click that, you see that it now has a different symbol, but nothing has changed. You can still use it practically the same way. And also I could say that this first scene, I want that to be a folder. So I right-click on the document and go to convert to folder. And now you see it is a folder. And you see it has a little extra page icon there with the folder that says that we have actually content here in the editor. And you see that this content that we put in, this scene 1, is not lost. It's still there. And if I go back to convert to file, it's gone back to file and everything's the same. Okay, so then what's this difference for? And this has to do with compiling. And we will talk about compiling just a little bit in a second. But when you set up how the documents are compiled, you can have different settings for folders and files. So you in the hierarchy that you build, you can differentiate between how folders are treated and how files are treated when you compile it. And so that's quite useful. But when you're working, you just can use it any way you want. And also, if you read through the instructions, how to use the template, which is always the first document that opens up if you create a new project from a template. If you read through them, you will see that they talk about how folders are treated in the compile process and also how files are treated. So that's why there are both. All right, okay, so let me just check. Are there any questions so far? Or is everything clear? If you have any questions, raise a hand. You can talk to me or you can put the question in the chat. Let me just see if everything is fine. Okay, going once, twice. All right, very good. So then let's move on. Now we're going to talk a little bit about compiling, okay? Because what you will do basically is you set up your project, you create the folders you need, the files you need, and then now you know how to work with the editor. That's just where you write. You know how to use the view modes, okay? And you know a little bit about the inspector and how to put in synopses and notes. Okay, so those are the basic things that you need. Let me just show you one more thing that I forgot. If you wanna create more hierarchies in the binder with sub-documents, you just grab one of the documents and push it on another one, and then it converts into a sub-document. Okay, and then you can just move it out again. Either this way, you see, you can put it in different places in the hierarchy, or you just move it onto a folder and then it will become the last document in that folder. Okay, so that's very easy, just drag and drop. All right, so now let's talk a bit about compiling. Because in Scrivener, theoretically, you can export a document. You have the export function, but it's not what you usually do. Usually you accumulate a lot of different documents, you create a whole structure, you collect whatever you need to write your story, because you don't, if you write a lot with Scrivener, you will have a lot of document files that go into your final book, screenplay, whatever, and you will also collect a lot of files for research and whatnot, and old versions and stuff and notes and whatever. So it will become quite a lot, which is fine, because you can order it any way you want. That's the nice thing about Scrivener. It adapts to a very large degree to the way you work. You don't have to adapt very much to the way the software works, because it's very flexible, okay? So there is an export function, but that export function is very limited and it's not really used a lot. So if you just want to export one document, one of those documents in the binder, you could, but we're not going to talk about that in detail because it works just like any export function. It's not what makes Scrivener strong. What makes it so strong is the compile process, and I'm going to show you what I mean. But just so you know, if you select one document in the binder and you go to File, Export, Files, and you could export it, but you're very, very limited. Scrivener's strong suit is really its flexibility, and for that you need a way to tell the program, okay, now I collected so many files in my manuscript folder. How do I want the content to be treated, to be exported? Because, and with exported, I mean compiled. Because what is great about Scrivener is that you can put all the info, if you know how to do it, and over time you'll learn how to do it, you put all the information in the editor in part, and in other places, for example, Synopsis and Notes. And then when you compile your project, you decide, okay, what kind of document do I want to compile, as in get out of Scrivener? And what information do I want to have included in that document? And how do I want it to look? Because it doesn't have to look the same way as it does in the editor. So let me show you how that works. And in order to do that, I will open the sample project that I gave you in the download package. Okay, so I will change the screen just real quick, and you can go to the sample project that you downloaded and open that up. Okay, so this novel sample file. You see that we have a little bit more here in the binder. It's not a lot more. I just created 3 chapters, and that's what you see here. And every chapter has 3 scenes, and they're numbered scene 1 through 9. And if you click on one of the documents, you see there is some sample text in the editor, and it also says, so that we see what ends up in the output. You see in the inspector, you see that it also has a synopsis. It says synopsis scene 1 through 9 for the other scenes. And also you see notes scene 1. Okay. All right. So we will see how we can export that in a second. Before we do that, let me just talk real quick about the upcoming webinar that I'm going to do next week, because this webinar is all about getting the basics right. Okay, so you know how to create a project where the basic stuff is that you need in order to write and organize yourself. We will talk a little bit about compiling also. But then knowing the functions of Scrivener is one part, and then how to use them is another thing. So next week, I will do a webinar about outlining, how you can outline with the corkboard and also with metadata. That's what we will look at. It's going to be basically like today. It's just going to be a little longer. We have 90 minutes, and it's going to be at the same time. So it's exactly next Sunday at 10 a.m. Los Angeles time. And I will guide you through 2 ways that you can outline with Scrivener. And actually, what we will do is we will do it with the corkboard and with metadata. And we will also look at how to work with templates and how to compile these outlines. Although in this webinar, we will also look how you at the basics of compiling outlines. So, but let me just show you how that will look, what we will do in next week's webinar. So if you want to outline your story, you will probably, hold on, you will probably spend a little time on outlining if you're an outliner. So you should see the corkboard now. And what I did here is, and what I will show you how to do that, what you can do with the corkboard, we had a brief look at it just before, but you can use it on multiple levels at once so that you can push around your scenes or elements. Okay, so what I did was I created, and I will show you how to do that, just a sample outline where you have chapters and scenes, but the same works if you're a screenwriter. It also works for acts and scenes, no problem. I gave the cards some color to distinguish them a little bit. And also now what you see here are basically 2 corkboards. You have the scenes of your chapters, but you can see them all at once. And now what that does is it allows you to play with your story a little bit. Okay, let's say you have a basic outline or just the elements and you want to play with them a little bit before you go into writing. And now you can just say, okay, maybe I'm going to put this, what I have as scene 2 in chapter 2 now, I'm going to put this in the chapter 1 fairly at the end. So I'm just going to push that here a little bit to the back. And of course, you can also push around your documents in the binder, no problem, but you don't see a lot of information there. it's a good overview to see what you have. But when you really want to see all the synopses at once and move them around and know where you're at, this multi-level outlining is a great thing, I think. And then also you see that the window is split. So we have two corkboards at once. On the right side, I also have a chapter overview. Okay, so that's what we're gonna have a look at. And also how to outline with metadata. And you can use one or the other, or you can combine the two. And what I set up here is custom metadata, so that I can use the structure that I have here and put in additional information. For example, and this is just one example to use it, you will know how you will best use it for your writing projects when you went through the webinar. So here, for example, I have my characters. I have a protagonist, an antagonist, and a sidekick, and I can just check in which scenes that one appears or not. And then I have a good overview of my characters, and also I have columns for, and this can be whatever you want it to be. I just put problems, as in what problems is the protagonist going to encounter, symbols in the story, what mysteries are going to show up, my reveals, setups, payoffs, and whatever. And you can activate and deactivate them. You can push them around. You can say, okay, I don't want to have my characters here. I want to have them a little more to the right. Okay, so I have this information more up front, and so on and so forth. Okay, so, and this can be really helpful to have an overview of what is happening in your story about various things at once, so that you can really get it right before you go into writing, because once you are writing, you're spending a lot of time, right? So you really want to make sure that your outline works and you have all the information structured in the way you want it to have, on a plot level and also on a deep level, so that you can create the best version of your story with Scrivener. So this is what we're going to look at next week. So for who is it? If you have, it's for people who are new to Scrivener. So if you have gone through this webinar, you're not completely new to Scrivener anymore. So you already know the basics. So this is more than enough to learn how to do these outlining strategies. We will also look at templates, by the way, so you can make your own outline templates, so you don't have to create that for every project. So basic knowledge, which you now have, and at the end of the webinar also about compiling, is more than enough. So you can do this. For who is it not? If you already know your way around the corkboard very, very well, if you know the outline editor very well, if you know how to deal with custom metadata very well, then it's probably not for you. So there is probably not going to be too much information. But if you're curious about how to set this up and make this work, then the webinar definitely is going to be for you. Just one caveat, it is not going to be a writing webinar, okay? It's going to be about how to set this up in Scrivener, and everything that I put here in terms of structure and information, story information, that's just sample. That's just sample text. It's not a writing webinar, okay? It's a Scrivener webinar. And I'm also planning to do more advanced Scrivener webinars about how to use the compiler more extensively, and other Scrivener tips and tricks. So if you are interested in other Scrivener topics, not necessarily in outlining, then just stay on my email list and you will know when the other seminars, the other webinars come up. So the price, it's going to be $15 for 90 minutes as the usual price, but there is an early bird. So if you sign up after the webinar in the next 24 hours, it's going to be $10. And if you want to sign up, there you have in your handout on the last page, you have the description of the webinar, and there is also a sign up link at the bottom. You just click that and you will get to a page where you can enroll, and then you will sign up to my writing platform, my course platform, and there you will find all the goodies, and there you will find also the access link for the webinar, but you will also get that via email. So don't worry. And talking about the goodies, so what you will get when you sign up for the webinar, in addition to that, is you also get free bonuses. You get my ebook, 33 Inspiration Techniques for Writers, that sells for $9.99 on Amazon. So you get that for free. And I think there is pretty useful stuff in there. It's a collection of things that helped me over the years becoming more inspired and more creative. So I think that's going to be very interesting. And also I will include my Scrivener structure templates. And those are, you have a Save the Cat template, the Snowflake method for novel writers, the hero's journey, John Truby, 22 steps, the mini movie method, and a 3-act structure template. So if you like working with one of these story structures, you don't have to build them for yourself in Scrivener. You just can import my template and start using them right away. And also one more thing that I will add, I haven't put that in the handout yet because I just decided that moments before the webinar. You will also, usually my offer on my website is I have video tutorials for writing software, a course platform. Usually if you sign up, you get 7 days for free. And Scrivener is also one of the video courses there, and others I'm going to show you in a second. Let me just switch the screen so I will show you. So usually if you sign up via my website, you get 7 days for free. But if you sign up for the webinar next week, I will give you a whole month. Okay. So let me just show you how that looks like. So this is my video course platform. You see there is a Scrivener course. So you get usually 7 days free. If you sign up for the webinar, you get 30 days free. And after that, it's $5 a month if you want to stay on. So you have Writer Duet, you have Scrivener, desktop for now. I'm planning to do mobile as well. You have Movie Magic Screenwriter, Final Draft, Fade In, Celtx, Film Use Stage, which is artificial intelligence supported script breakdown. If you are interested in that, if you do script production breakdowns, and also Highland. So, and the subscription includes all of them. So if you sign up, if you get your 30 days for free, you have access to all these courses that you see here. Okay, so that's it. I think that's going to be a great webinar. If you're interested in learning outlining strategies with Scrivener as your next step, you're invited to do so. Just click on the sign up link at the bottom of on the last page of the handout, and then go from there. All right, so now let's go back to our novel sample, because now I'm going to show you how you can compile your document. Actually, before we do that, let me just check, does anyone have any questions regarding the upcoming webinar or what we just did so far on this webinar? Going once, going twice. All right. Okay, so then, great, let's continue. So I already told you that you put your information in Scrivener, in part in the editor, in the synopsis, in the notes, in other places. And then when you, depending on what you want to have as an output document, you decide, okay, what would you like to include and how do you want it to look? And now the compiler in Scrivener is a little bit of a beast, or can be. That's why I'm planning to do extra webinars on how to customize it. But you don't have to do that. That's important to understand, because sometimes people open it up and they see, oh, there are so many settings and I don't want to deal with that. And then they shut down. But you don't have to deal with it. That's why Scrivener has included preset compile formats that you can use. Okay, so let's have a look at them. First, let's have a look at compiling a manuscript. So if you opened the novel sample, you just go to File, Compile, and then the compiler window opens up. And there, if you take a look at the left side, you have, for now, forget project formats and also forget my formats. Those are my formats. Take a look at Scrivener formats. Those are the formats that come with Scrivener, and they will be included when you install the program. So for now, let's just leave everything as it is, do nothing else apart from on the left side where it says Scrivener Formats, choose Manuscript times, and at the top where it says Compile for, choose PDF or whatever you want to choose. I'm going to choose PDF. And that's it, nothing else. All the rest of it, just leave it like it is. And then in the bottom right, you click Compile. And now Scrivener will ask you for a file name, and we will call this Manuscript times. Okay, so let's compile this, export it, and change the screen so you can see it, what it looks like. So, okay, so this is the export now from Scrivener, or the compiler rather. On the first page, this is the title page, and we haven't put in our name, our data, so that's why there are still placeholders. But you see that Scrivener automatically added a title page that you can edit, of course, and change. And then below that, if you scroll down, you see that it compiled our document the way the novel template does it, and it's the way it is explained in the novel template description. So here it puts chapter 1. We didn't put that in the project. That comes from the compiler. And then we have the text from our first scene document. Then we have a placeholder to for between these two documents, and this is the text from the next document, and so on and so forth. And this is how this compile format in the novel template creates your output if you choose this manuscript times format. Okay, and you also see that the font and the formatting can be completely different from what you see in the editor. So there is one thing working in Scrivener and doing your stuff there, and how that looks and what information you output has nothing or not necessarily anything to do with that, because that is defined in the compile format. Okay, so you see, if you output your manuscript, you have the text from your editor, from your documents, the way it is defined in the compiler. So now let's go back to Scrivener. Because next, without changing anything in the project, we will compile an outline. And we will do the same as we did before. We go to File, Compile. But this time, we don't choose Manuscript Times. We choose Full Indented Outline. Okay? We change only that. We do exactly the same thing like before, but instead of Manuscript Times, we choose Full Indented Outline. And now let's see what Scrivener does with that. Go indented outline. And let me show you how that looks. And now you see that what we see is completely different. It's the same Scrivener project. But with this compile format, the information that we pass to the compiler is completely different and it's handled completely differently. So now you see chapter 1 and it says scene 1 and it outputs your synopsis. Okay, we didn't see anything of your synopsis in the output before, but because that was the manuscript, we wouldn't want to have synopsis in the manuscript. But if we want an outline, we just want a brief description of every scene to know what happens. Okay, so that is something completely different. And Scrivener offers you the possibility with the compiler that you choose, what do you want to output, to have output, and how should it look like, okay? And now, and I'm gonna finish in a couple of minutes. I'm sorry, I'm gonna go a couple of minutes over, but this is the last step that we're gonna do. So if we go back to the Scrivener project, because you might want to change the compile format a little bit, okay? And just in order to show you the principles of that, we could talk about the compiler for hours, but just to show you a basic way of doing that, let's say we want to include our notes also. We just want an outline and we want to see the notes also. Maybe it's for us just to go through it on a PDF. Maybe we want to print it out. Maybe we want to carry it with us on the iPad and read it, I don't know, on the bus, you know, whatever. So let's go to File, Compile again. And this time we want to change something in this compile format. And I just want to show you how that is done. If we double click this full indented outline format, what happens is Scrivener says, we need to duplicate the format because this format is, we can't change this format. So we won't, in order not to lose it. Okay, so we cannot tamper with it. We need to duplicate it first and then we can edit it. Okay, because these are the standard formats. So let's click duplicate and edit. And then the compiler window opens up. And this is the window where we can change almost everything that we want to change in the way the compiler handles our project. Okay, and you see there are a lot of sections. If you want to have fun with it, just you can go through them and see what's there. But for now, you don't have to do that. Okay, I just want to show you one simple thing that you can change so you can output the notes also. If you take a look in the section layouts, you see that the outline item is boldened, and that is because that is an element that is used. And this defines which information of our outline item, and in the compiler, the scenes that we have are called outline items. The way this is set up, it could be something else. So this line defines which information from our scenes is output. And you can see that we have checked the title and we have checked the synopsis. Okay, that's why when we output our synopsis, we get the title, which is scene 1 through 9. And then below that, we get the synopsis. And now you can see that notes is not checked. So that's why we don't see it. If we check that, you see that below in the lower part of the window, you see a preview of what the compile is roughly going to look like, or at least what kinds of information it's going to have. And now you see we have a section title, we have a synopsis, and a synopsis text goes there. And below that, we also have the notes and the notes text. Okay, so let's save that. And now you see under project formats that we have this full indented outline copy. And you can see 3 of them because I've done it before. So you will probably only have 1. And you could rename that if you want, but for now, let's just keep it like that. And then click compile. And then we're going to call this outline with notes, export it. And if we now take a look at that, we can see that's the same as before, but below the synopsis, we have, it says chapter 1, scene 1, and then it says synopsis, followed by the synopsis of the corresponding scene. And then below that, now we also have the notes. Okay, so, and this is basically how the compiler works. You go in the setting and you look for what would I like to include and how would I like to format it and so on and so forth. Okay, so, but you don't have to do that. You can do a lot with the pre-made compiled formats. I just wanted to give you a sense of how the compiler works, how you can edit a format, so you can go look for what would you maybe like to change, and how can you build upon that knowledge now that you know where to look and apply it to your own writing projects. All right. Okay, so I went 3 minutes over. I'm very sorry for that. I hope I could give you an overview of the basics of Scrivener, how Scrivener thinks, because you can really do a lot with it. And what we've done, we've barely scratched the surface, but you have the most essential, the most basic stuff down. So now you can use it to create your projects, write your projects, and also output your project, because those are all the steps that we did. And I hope you feel that your time was well spent. And if you're interested in going further with Scrivener, I'm planning to do more webinars. Apart from that, there is also my video course platform. If you just want to sign up, it's 7 days for free, and then it's $5 per month. If you want to sign up for the upcoming outlining webinar with Scrivener next week, you get 30 days for free for my video courses. Scrivener course is also included, and that also explains a lot. So the thinking was, if you went through this webinar and you have the basics down, and then you can use the free month to learn more about Scrivener. And if you want to do more live classes, that's okay also. All right, thank you very much. There is one question. You answered the question I had about difference between folders and files. Great, that also confused me in the beginning. Very nice to hear. Does your Scrivener online course include using the Scrivener app on iPad? I think at the moment it doesn't. At the moment I have the desktop course online. I already have lectures on using Scrivener on the iPad. You can go to my YouTube channel. You find something there. I'm planning to add a course for Scrivener on the iPad also on my course platform. But meanwhile, you can go to YouTube and check it out there if you find something. Okay, I'm going to paste the link in the description. It's youtube.com/writersterritory. You can go there. Okay, if you just would like to check out the course platform, the video course platform, I'm gonna give you this link also, but I can also put it in the mail that I'm gonna send you after the webinar. So you're good. All right, do we have more questions? Going once, going twice. All right. So thank you for your time, everybody. Thank you for signing on. Thank you for your interest in Scrivener. I hope you learned something. I hope you go out of this webinar with more knowledge than before. And maybe we'll see each other next week or on some other occasion. So happy writing, everybody. I hope that you are successful with whatever software you use and that you can write the stories that really you want to write, that you carry inside you, and that you can get them out on the page and sell them and make all your writing dreams come true. Okay, thank you, everybody. Have a great time. Thank you. Bye.